So, what if the solution to pretty much all human conflicts, I'm talking everything from big political debates down to arguments over what's for dinner, was as simple as just reorganizing a barnyard? It sounds kind of wild, right? Well, today we're diving into a really fascinating and, let's be honest, unconventional thought experiment from an author named Shu Sung. It's called One Globe, 64 Systems. Okay, so let's get into it. To understand this big, grand theory, the author doesn't start with some complicated political science. Nope. Instead, he just asks us to picture a single, very crowded farm. So the scene is pretty simple. Just imagine one big enclosure, and it is packed. You've got cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, ducks, geese, all crammed in there together. Now, they're all trying to coexist, but their basic natures, what makes a pig and a chicken, they're just too different. And right there, according to the author, that's where all the trouble begins. And the result is just constant, never-ending conflict. You can practically hear the racket, can't you? The chickens are squawking because the pigs and dogs are trampling their eggs. The sheep are furious because the cows are gobbling up their food. And absolutely everybody is mad that the ducks and geese are, well, fouling up the water trough. It is just total and complete chaos. All right, so you're faced with this farmyard disaster. What do you do? I mean, how do you possibly bring peace to this pen? Well, the author considers a pretty common approach before he offers his own, much more radical idea. So, the first instinct for a lot of us might be to, try and teach the animals to be better. Maybe hold some classes on empathy. Get the cows to really consider the chicken's point of view. Could you actually solve the problem just by getting everyone to be nicer and get along? The author's take on this approach is, well, it's blunt. He completely dismisses the whole idea of moral education in this situation. He just calls it worthless and useless. His argument is, look, you can't teach a pig not to act like a pig. It's just not going to happen. So here's the crucial point. Instead of trying to change their inner nature, the author says, why not just change their outer environment? And this just lays out his logic perfectly. You go from step 1, total chaos in one pen, to step 3, peace and order, by doing one simple thing in step 2, giving each group of animals its own separate space. Cows with cows, chickens with chickens. And just like that, problem solved. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to pivot from this simple farm story to the entire globe. The author takes this very basic principle that separation can bring peace and applies it directly to what he calls the human herd. And here it is, the core of the whole theory. The idea is, instead of trying to force all of humanity into one big, messy, conflicted pen, what if we created dozens of different systems, or living modes? The key here is that people would be totally free to find and join the community that really reflects their own values and their own way of life. Let's take politics, for example. All those endless debates. In this model, they basically become irrelevant. People who believe in capitalism, great, they go form their own society. Those who prefer socialism, they can create theirs. No more arguing. You just go live in the system you actually believe in. Now, the author then extends this logic into much more controversial territory. And I want to be really clear here. The source text itself suggests that to get rid of racial discrimination, populations would separate by their continent of origin. This is presented in the text as just another application of that core principle, the idea being that this kind of strict separation is the ultimate way to eliminate conflict between different groups. And the model goes even deeper than that, right into culture and personal choice. You'd have distinct societies for different religious groups. Even your diet would define your community. A place for meat eaters, a totally separate one for vegetarians. Same thing for social structures, right? Separate societies for monogamists and for polygamists. The whole goal is just to remove as many points of friction as possible. Okay, but this all leads to a really big question. Why 64? That number isn't just a casual detail. It's right there in the title of the theory. It feels really specific, very deliberate. So where on earth does it come from? 64. Not around 60, not 70, but exactly 64. You can tell this very specific number isn't just random. It's meant to anchor the entire concept. It suggests that there's some kind of perfect, finite number of ways for humanity to organize itself for peace and survival. So the author gives one reason and only one reason. The text says that the number 64 directly corresponds to 64 essential elements that human survival depends on. And that's it. It doesn't explain what those elements are, it just presents it as this fundamental truth that the whole theory is built on. It's a really bold claim that's just left there, totally unexplained. All right, let's move into the final section and see how this all wraps up. After laying out this massive, systematic, and honestly incredibly radical vision for reorganizing the entire planet, is any of this meant to be taken seriously? I mean, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Could you actually do this? Could you convince billions of people to uproot their entire lives and move into these highly specific zones based on their beliefs and lifestyles? Is this a practical plan? The author's answer is, well, it's a surprising jolt of realism. He says, very plainly, of course not. He says this ideal can never happen. And the reason he gives? The people already in power would simply never, ever allow such a radical change to the world. And here it is. This is the final, brilliant twist in the whole thing. After building up this entire complex worldview, the author pulls back the curtain and reveals its true purpose. It's not a political manifesto, it's not some serious proposal. It is, in his own words, just for everyone to have a little fun when they are full and have nothing to do. It's just a puzzle for us to think about. So what do we make of all this? Is one globe, 64 systems, just a playful jab at how absurd human conflict can be? Or is there maybe a deeper point hiding in there? Perhaps by labeling such a radical idea as just for fun, the author is kind of highlighting how quickly we dismiss uncomfortable solutions before we even really think about the problems they're trying to solve. It's a blueprint for the future that says it's impossible, and maybe that's the most interesting part of this whole thought experiment.